Okay, so what you are looking at here is the Firm Capacity Planner version 1.01. And what this allows you to do as an accounting firm, so a small or medium sized accounting firm, it helps you understand what fees to charge based off of the resources you provide and also understanding what your firm capacity is. Do you have enough folks to support the engagements, right? So you, by the end of this exercise, you can go through your entire pricing. You can look at all the folks you're hiring, from bookkeepers to outsourced CFOs, to accountants, to CPAs. You can understand what your margins should be based off of the services you provide, and you can adjust. So it does a lot of things that you can do in this one sheet. And the best thing is this is completely free, not selling anything here. My only ask is if you like this, just drop a comment below. Tell me what you like. If you hated it, tell me that you hated it, what you like to see improved. And I appreciate that if you could just give that feedback. So this is a lot of stuff to cover. So let me just kind of make this a little smaller so we can kind of see things a bit better here. Okay, so now the first thing I want to say about this is a multi-step process. So this entire sheet is actually 4 steps, right? So I'm just going to kind of scroll down, and I'm not going to explain all this stuff just yet, but you can see there's a lot of action going on here. I wanted to make this very simple. So the use case is, let's say you are a small to medium-sized accounting firm. Maybe you're making somewhere between $200,000 and $800,000 in revenue. Maybe you're a sole practitioner. Maybe you have some staff. More than likely, you have maybe some outsourced bookkeepers or tax prep folks, either salaried or hourly. So let's look at this. The first thing you're going to do is you are going to enter in your desired firm margin. And this is important because from a cost perspective, you want to understand if you're making enough, right? Now, this is kind of like a cost plus exercise, but again, the point is it answers the question, am I charging enough based off of the resources that I'm providing to a client? And is that comfortable enough for me and my firm and for my profitability? So you enter in your margin, and all this stuff is totally dynamic. And again, you have access in the sheet and the comments. You can grab the link below and go through this with me if you like. But basically, the thing to keep in mind is that all the stuff in the yellow is editable. Okay, if it's in the gray area, don't edit it. Right, it's probably going to be a formula. So if you try to type something in there, it's going to bark at you. It's going to say, "Hey, you're trying to edit something that you shouldn't." Okay, so just cancel out of that. Okay, so you enter in your firm margin, and let's just kind of go through this. So let's just say maybe I want a 40% margin in my firm. Okay, now the next thing to do is you're going to load your staff and their rates below. Okay, so you're going to choose roles, right? So you can choose accountant, bookkeeper, manager, senior accountant. This is totally dynamic, and I'm going to show you how you can adjust according to the staff that you actually have today or that you are thinking about hiring. Hourly rate, okay? And the hourly rate is basically an approximation based on the annual salary, okay? So let's just say you have a bookkeeper in-house, you're paying $40,000. I hope you're paying a little more than that these days, but let's just say it's $40,000. It basically approximates that hourly rate, and you can see I'm very transparent about how this is built, so you'll see the formulas. In this case, it basically rounds the hourly rate, so it's basically the salary divided by 52 weeks a year, divided by the number of work hours per week. Okay. So that's how that number, and it basically rounds it to the nearest dollar. Okay, so that's the hourly rate, and you'll notice these little things, these little triangle things. I also left a note so you can kind of see how these are described. So for example, under the role, you can see each role should have a unique role, right? So you don't want to have bookkeeper, bookkeeper, bookkeeper. You want to make it unique unless these are going to be basically 2 folks that you have for it. So maybe you have an accountant, you have a senior accountant as well. Okay, so let's go through this. So salary, available hours per year, and again another note here. So 1,920 hours assumes a full-time schedule for a year minus typical vacation and holidays. Okay, so you can adjust this, right? You probably know that number better than most. This stuff is in the gray area, right? Because this is how many billable hours a year. And what I mean by that is that, So the difference between available versus billable is that, okay, well, great that we have these folks available for 1,920 hours a year. However, the billable, how billable are these folks to the clients, right? So there may be time that we're not charging because of, maybe internal meetings or any kind of things that are, generally not billable, training, anything that's not billable to the client, okay? And the way to adjust this, again, don't type anything over in the gray area. You adjust this by the billable hour, right? So for example, if let's just say maybe this is not a salaried person, this is actually a outsourced bookkeeper we're getting from the Philippines. And it's basically, you're basically charging by hour. So basically the billable hour percentage is 100%. So if I type in 1 here, watch what happens to this. So that basically goes to 1920, which is the effective available hours. Okay, so I'll just kind of go back and leave that for now. So feel free to adjust based off of that. So it basically gives you the billable per hour per year, and that breaks down into the number of available hours per month. So 128 hours booked. Okay, so in this exercise, you're going to see here based off of the job, the engagement. So this is going to be one engagement, right? So based off of this engagement, this is saying that, well, we actually have 25 hours of that bookkeeper booked for this particular job. And I'll show you how that math is done here. As you can see, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but we can see, so for example, in this case, for this bookkeeping engagement, it's going to be 25 hours. And this calculation does this automatically for you, okay? So that's the hours booked, remaining hours, right? So from a resource management, it's like, okay, well, it's great that we have 128 hours worth of bookkeeper for our firm. However, what's your utilization, right? So we know that based off of this job, well, we have 103 hours left, right? So we don't want to have a bunch of bookkeepers on the bench when there's work to be done, right? So this tells you like, hey, we need some more work, right? So this is kind of like a cue to get more sales, get your rainmaker in to close more deals, just to make sure that this number is balanced properly, okay? Same deal for the rest of these columns, right? And you're simply choosing what the job is here, and it automatically changes. So for example, if I just set this to bookkeeper, you'll see here that it automatically does the calculations across the board. So to keep it simple, I'm going to just keep it one roll per row here, okay? Okay, so let's dive into this, and I left some additional capacity where you can add in additional roles, and I'll show you how to do that in just a bit. Okay, so this is step 2. So you're basically going to load your staff in their rates below, right? So again, enter in all the stuff in the yellow areas for each role, okay? Next step is step 3, where we're going to actually price out the engagement. Now, I kind of started this as very simple engagement. Let's just say for this particular job, you've done the scoping session, and it looks like they needed 1040. That is going to basically, let's just kind of go through the services. So they need a 1040, they need 1120S, and then they need some bookkeeping done. Okay, and the way that we've done this is that you're basically going to pick the service, right? So we have a list of services, and I'll show you how this comes into play shortly. So you choose your service, in this case 1040, and the complexity. This is going to be a little subjective based off of your firm, right? Is that going to be low? Is it easy, medium, or hard, right? So low, medium, or complex. In this case, let's say maybe this is a medium 1040, right? It's maybe they have a few Schedule E's and things like that. So you're trying to ascertain exactly how complex this is. And by the way, folks, this is, like I said, this is the free sheet. If you are looking for something that is a lot more comprehensive and uses AI to basically do all this for you, you'll see a link in the description on this video for accountants on how to basically use a new platform that I've developed to take advantage of this. But like I said, I just want to kind of give enough value in this free version to see what this looks like. Okay, so now you have the complexity, and let's just say the frequency. So how often is this service going to be provided, right? So is this monthly, weekly, quarterly, annual, one time? Now, in the case of a 1040, really it's going to be, is it going to be like a one-time thing, right? They drop their stuff off at the end of the year. You charge them one for that 1040, or do you want to roll? So that's one time, right? Or do you want to roll that into a monthly recurring cost, so kind of like a subscription, if you will, right? So for things like one-time things, I would recommend either doing one time or monthly, and I'll talk about weekly and quarterly and annually in just a moment. But for things like 1040s, 1120s, and things like that, I'd say one time or monthly. And the difference is, so with monthly, you can see here, this is rolling into a monthly recurring fee. So $162 a month, right? If you charge them for that year, it would be $19.49. Well, let's just say we did that as a one-time engagement. So we choose one time, right? So that's same price here, all right? So we're just going to go ahead and, actually, I'll go ahead and keep it as that so we can kind of see how everything fleshes out. So in this case, it is 4 labor hours. How do we know how many hours this 1040 takes? I'm going to show you how all this breaks down in the next section, so bear with me, okay? So you're not missing anything yet. I'll show you how to calculate this, because you'll see this is in a gray area, so I don't want you changing this here, because it's this basically this crazy formula in the background that takes care of this for you. Okay, so and then basically this stuff in the dark gray, this is automatic calculations on totals, and I'll explain that in a moment. Same deal for the rest. So let's say you have another job, and again, you're focusing on the yellow area. So in this case, let's say you want to do a 1120S. So you choose the 1120S from here. Maybe this is an easier kind of return. Maybe not, kind of simple. It's going to be on a monthly, right? Or again, you can do it one time as well. I'll just choose monthly in this case here. And then that shows what the yearly fee is going to be as well. And then it estimates about 3 hours for this, okay? So, and then finally, let's say bookkeeping, right? So you choose bookkeeping, and then the complexity, let's just say low, and then the monthly. So now this is where you can have a bit more flexibility. So a service like bookkeeping, along with a lot of these other services like fractional controllership, KPI reporting, finance dashboard, a lot of these can actually be monthly recurring services, right? It depends on how often you're providing the service. So bookkeeping is a really great example, because you may do monthly bookkeeping. Some folks want it weekly, right? But the difference between these are, the more often you are providing the service, the more expensive it should be, because it requires more resources from your firm, right? So in this case, if it's $665 a month, if we go to weekly, well, that monthly fee is a lot more expensive, okay? So what this does is it automatically changes that weekly fee. It normalizes it into a monthly fee. Let me repeat that. So I know it looks like a lot, but this is per month, okay? So basically, that weekly fee comes down to basically $26.60 divided by 4. So that's how that calculation is done. Okay. So this is monthly, right? And to make sure you understand how that totals, if you look at the weekly, you can see kind of like what is the fee for the year. So in this case, quite expensive versus monthly. And let's look at quarterly, right? So again, that monthly fee is decreasing as the frequency gets longer, okay? So the fee for the year in this case, if you're doing quarterly bookkeeping, it's only $19.95 versus that monthly, okay? And then if you're doing annual bookkeeping, super cheap in this case. Now, in reality, you're probably going to charge a lot more for annual bookkeeping, and I'll show you how you can adjust the numbers. Again, in this simple version, it doesn't do any kind of automatic calculations in terms of figuring out your pricing. So this is going to, in reality, you're probably going to, if it's bookkeeping, it's probably going to be more than likely a monthly recurring basis, right? And this is going to be for easy or low complexity, right? If that was medium, that would be a bit more expensive, okay? So let's leave it at that for now. So we can see here is $13.30 per month, and this is going to be the hours, right? So you basically the hours are calculated, right? If that is low, then it's only 25 hours. Complex, 100 hours. And again, you have full control on how to adjust this in the next section. Okay, and then it gives you the total. So we know that if we were to move forward with this, this is going to be a total of $14.52 a month, plus a one-time fee of $19.49, because remember we decided to charge at $10.40 on a one-time basis, right? And what I recommend is try to roll everything as possible into a monthly recurring cost. Your customers will love you for it. It's easy on your firm. It's easy on your resource allocation. So I'm just going to go ahead and change this to a monthly right here. Okay, so we can easily see that $16.14 a month. All right, and that's the annual amount that basically this is going to be the actual annual fee for that, if that were an annual project. And then we have the total cost. So this is how much it costs us. So for those 57 hours, it costs our firm at cost is $13,836. Now, since we have a 40% profit here, well, that gives us a nice total profit of about $5,500. Okay, so the minimum fee we need to break even is $11.53, right? So let me explain this real quick, right? And an easy way to understand this is, let's imagine we didn't bake in any margin at all. Okay, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to type in 0 for my margin, and I'm just can enter this in. And before, I'm just going to kind of scroll down before I change it, so you can see when I hit the enter button how this is going to change. Now watch this, so you can see how everything. So the profit. Now watch this. Enter. Okay. So basically now, what just happened here is we have 0 margin on this, right? So effectively, the annual fee is the same as cost. Okay, and we know we need at least $11.53 to the minimum monthly fee to break even on this, right, for that cost. Okay, all right, I'm going to go ahead and change the margin back to 40%. Okay, I think this is pretty straightforward. In step 4, this is where you define your services you provide, the role, the complexity, frequency, a few other things. So let's just kind of go through a couple of these, right? So in this case, what's the role? Accountant, okay? And what's the service? Franchise, transfer, tax, okay? And what is going to be the complexity? Now you'll see for each of these roles we have basically there's 15 rows for each role, okay? So what do I mean by that? If I click on this, now if you look, let me kind of move this a little bit, you should see a little sum in the bottom right hand corner. So if I hold down this and go, let's just see, if I shift down, right, I see count 15. So basically it's 15 rows here, okay? So basically we want to fill out each row for the accountant role, all right? So we have the services. So for each role we have complexity, 5 of these, 5 so low, medium, and complex. And then we have the frequency, okay? And so for example, can be weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, or one time. And then we have the frequency multiplier. So what this tries to do is it's basically saying, hey, if you're doing this stuff more frequently, you're going to charge a little more, all right? And then you enter in, well, how many hours is this going to take? So if you're doing, let's just say, franchise transfer tax, this is going to take, let's just say, 1 hour, okay? Now, in this case, it gets a little weird because it's not like you're doing franchise transfer tax on a weekly basis. It may be something that you end up doing like once a year, right? So in the case where you know that it's a one-time thing technically, you just focus on the hours, and then you can choose up top whether that's going to make more sense as like a one-time versus a recurring amount, okay? And then the of course, so the hours. So this is all the stuff in yellow that you complete. All this stuff is calculated automatically based on the hourly rate. And again, so this hourly rate is automatic, right? Because that hourly rate came from here, right? So this is where we basically we enter in the salary for the hourly rate. So let's just say if we wanted to maybe bump that salary up to 65 because we wanted to boost the hourly rate. So if I enter in 65,000, that boosts the hourly rate to 31. So you can kind of play around with that to basically kind of see how the math works out. Okay, so now that we covered that, this is pretty much it in a nutshell. So you're going to just go through this and make sure you set each of these, play around with it to make sure you get to a level of comfortability, and then you can kind of fact check yourself by going through here, filling it out. I think we have up to, let's see how many in here. So we have about, just over a dozen or so rows that you can play around with. The last thing I would say, so this is pretty simple, right? I mean, it has a lot of services, fractional controllership, finance dashboard, bunch of other stuff. But let's say you have a bunch more stuff that you want to add. Or maybe if you have another role, right? So let's just say there is a manager 2 that we want to add in, right? Now we can see here there is no manager 2 here, right? So what we need to do here is we need to actually kind of go in the reverse, and we need to start at the bottom under step 4. All we're going to do is add the manager 2 or the new role. So we start with the role. Okay, so remember for each of these it's going to be about 15 places. Okay, so let's just, to make this super simple, just literally copy and paste the previous thing. So I'm just going to copy and paste all the stuff in the yellow from above and paste it below. And now I'm going to change this to manager 2. Okay, and I'm just going to take this and slide it down to manager 2. Okay, so now you notice it went crazy, right? So we have a bunch of stuff in red. Don't freak out because this is as expected. Okay, bottom line is if you see stuff in the red like this, there's a problem. All right, so whenever you're adding stuff in a new role, the way to fix this is you're going to do 2 things. The first thing is you want to make sure that on the above here, it's basically looking for a manager 2, and it's complaining that it didn't find a manager 2 in our little drop down here. Okay, so now that we added it below, we should see manager 2 when we click on this. Okay, and we don't. All right, so this is embarrassing. So how do we fix that? Well, so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have it selected. Let me just make sure that this is accounting for everything. Yep. Let's just see here. Kind of just fixing this real time, guys. This is what I do. So what is going on here? Why don't we have the manager 2 in here? Let's just check on one other thing here. I think we might need to just extend the range a little bit here. So that's down to 246. Okay. So let me just take a quick look at the data validation here. 26. Yeah, so I just need to extend that range. All I'm doing here is I'm telling it to, hey, it kind of cut off here, like at the last one around here. All I'm doing is I'm extending the range all the way to row 246. Okay, I know this is a little advanced. You probably don't have to do that if you don't have a bunch of services. So I'm going to click on enter, and hopefully, so now I see manager 2 pop up here, and that tells me that it worked. All right, so I'm going to click on done and move myself here a little bit. Now, if I close this on out, I should be able to go back here and see, voila, manager 2. However, they're still going to be red at the bottom. Check it out. Because, okay, well, what I did is I actually made a formula earlier to kind of block out the red and basically when all this stuff is not filled out. But there's one thing that is still missing. We still need to tell it what the hourly rate is going to be. Okay, so let's just say, so manager was 80,000. Let's just say maybe manager 2 is 120,000. Enter that in. Okay, so now we have the effective hourly rate of $58. Let's go down to the bottom here and see. So everything is looking good. The only thing you want to do here is go ahead and set the parameters for basically the number of hours, right? So how many hours is this particular task going to take, right? So in this case, let's just say it is going to be, so in this case, it's phone call and email support at a manager 2 level. In this case, we don't have to set the hours because we've already effectively adjusted the hourly rate for that. Okay, so basically a little more expensive for a manager 2 support, right? And you can do this. So if this was, for example, let's just say maybe this was I don't know, advanced KPI reporting, right? So remember, you want to set this for each of these as you go through it, all right? Because you want to make sure that it comes up correctly above. So if we did that, then we should see that now under advanced KPI, we should see it automatically pop up here, right? So let me do here, I think we need to extend the ranges as well. My apologies. Let me go ahead and do that for this as well, because I'm making it super easy for you guys, so you don't have to hopefully go through all of this stuff here. So let's look at the data validation, and I think we had to extend it, right? What was that, 246? I think it was, right? 246, yep. And now we have the advanced stuff. Okay, cool. And while I'm here, let me just make sure that all that looks good. Just kind of extending the range here. Right, looks good. Same for this guy here. 46. Right. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, I think we are good to go here. So now, if we choose, the advanced KPI, right? Got it here, and we should see this automatically come up. Now, this stuff is in red because we haven't filled this stuff out, okay? So how many hours a year? Let's just say the same, 1920, all right? And then how billable is this, right? So let's just say maybe 80% billable, and okay. So now, let's see, it's still complaining about this. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. Right. Okay. Yep. So the reason why this is like that, because we didn't finish completing the row. Okay. So now for the advanced KPI reporting, let's just say maybe medium. Let's do monthly again. Okay. And now let's just make sure what's going on here for the fee. We might just make sure we extended this range. Okay. And again, guys, you shouldn't have to worry about doing this. I'm just doing this in real time to try to clear this up, just in case you come across a little snafu. You can kind of see how you would resolve something like this. Okay, do B18. Yep, that looks good. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I think I see the problem. I'm just going to pause here for a second and then I'll explain what I did. Okay, I think I fixed that problem. The problem was with these cells here, the range wasn't extended all the way down to the lower levels of the column. So for example, we can see here, if you double click on this, it wasn't calculating all the way down to the end. I think I had it stopped at like around upper level, so I extended all the way down to 300. Don't have to worry about that. This is taken care of automatically for you now, so we should be good to go. So if you click on the link in the comments, you should have the access to this updated. And I'll actually go ahead and update this as we go along. Just give me some feedback. I might do a version 1.02. Most of my focus is on our main platform, but this is kind of a little weekend project for me. So again, let me know what you love, what you hate, what else you want to see in here. Again, the purpose is to try to help you figure out how to understand your capacity, how to price things on a basic level. But this is really it. So we kind of looked at how all this rolls up. You can kind of see this is going to be the estimated, the recommended fee for your monthly service. That is going to be your minimum fee there. And then again, your profitability. So your total profit from this particular project is $6,648. Okay. So, and that's basically, that's what you're netting. Okay, so it automatically accounts for the resources involved for either the hourly or salary folks that you're gonna use on your team. So yeah, this is it in a nutshell. I would love your feedback. Again, I'll drop this in the comments below. If you are an accounting firm that wants something a bit more powerful, we've actually developed an AI platform that does not only this, but it does it automatically and pretty much in real time across a number of other multiple entities. It does it for tax planning. It does it for FP&A. It's basically the next version of a pricing tool, what we're calling outcome-based pricing. So you can check that out in the description for accountants. Check that out. Yeah, this is it. I'd love to know any feedback and let me know. In the meantime, I will see you on the next video.